Good morning, East Africa. This is Mutiu Olawuyi. As usual, we're here for ArtFlakes. This week, we're going to close the part of Tanzanian literature. We've discussed about it in detail. When we get into the studio, when I get to the second part, the other side of the studio with us, Umar Osabo, we'll be going deeply into the exploration of the text. This time around, we're not going into the world of Tanzanian literature, but we're going into the literary world of that country. Don't go away. This is ArtFlakes. Welcome to CBA ArtFlakes, as usual. Today, we are going to the second episode of Tanzanian literature. In Tanzanian literature, if you remember last week, we explore the historical background of the country. We look at the literature of the country holistically. But today we're going to be looking at the texts from this country, different texts, particularly the prosaic and poetic work of Tanzanian writers. And specifically, we'll be considering 2 to 3 authors. But we're going to centralize more of our work on Shaban Roberts, who is referred to as the father of Tanzanian literature, or who some people refer to as the Shakespeare of Tanzania. And we'll be talking about Ibrahim Hussein, who is also one of the greatest writers in that country. And with me today again is my regular guest, Umar Osabo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. And we shall be going deeply into the exploration of this text in detail.
Okay.
We're going to be looking at how best we can go deeply into the total discussion of about the link between the text and the world of Tanzania.
Okay.
So I want you to kick off with the father of Tanzanian literature. What do you know about this writer, Robert Shaban?
Well, Shaban Robert is a great writer with impeccable credentials because of series of publication and his contribution to Tanzanian literature. Generally, the people refer to him as the father of Tanzanian literature. He has a number of works, but prominent among these works is what is My Life and 50 Years. Okay. I don't know why he decided to...
My Life and 50 Years.
I don't know why he decided to title a book like that. My Life and 50 Years. My Life and 50 Years is a historical novel that chronicles the 3 phases of his life, his childhood and his early adulthood and his much more later years. Life. Well, from the story, there were little or nothing to say about the first 2 phases of his life. That is his childhood and his middle age. Okay. But much more later, it was in the 3rd part of his life that we have a lot that we have learned a lot about his life in relationship with the life of the Tanzanians people. For instance, there was a moment in the novel when he was transferred from his duty post to another place, and as he was leaving the community, even though he was just a civil servant, and people in the community, women, men, even some leaders, they were all at the street waving at him, telling him bye-bye as he was leaving the community. He was amazed. So he has to ask himself, why are people celebrating his departure from the community? What has he done that has made people that are giving his life this credence, this recognition, this acceptability? So the work is a kind of historical in nature, and he sees the book My Life and After 50 Years as a book.
I'm going to refer to that as autobiography.
Yes, it's an autobiography, but in a fictional format.
Yeah.
In a fictional format, similar to what Soyinka wrote about himself, Ibadan or Ake.
Okay.
It is in that.
Okay,
Is in that style that he wrote the book, the novel.
Okay.
Yes.
So what about the Ibrahim Hassan? What can you say about Ibrahim Hassan generally?
Well, I think before we go into Ibrahim Hassan,
because I'm coming back to this Robert Sahel.
Okay, you're coming back to the text.
I just want us to discuss about the personality.
Okay.
Then we'll go back into the text.
The text. Yeah. Okay. Ibrahim Hussein is also a historical playwright. He writes more plays. Like one of his plays that we'll be discussing in this episode, Kinji Ketele, is a play that took the Tanzanian back to 1904 to 1909, that witnessed the Maji rebellion in Tanzania against the German people, against the German domination.
A colonial text.
So he's also a prominent writer. He has also contributed immensely to the literature of Tanzania as a person and in reflection to Tanzania history in pre-colonial time to date.
Okay, so let's go back to the text now.
All right.
I want us to go deeply into the exploration of the work of Sir Ibrahim Roberts in relation to the life of the Tanzanian. What can you say about his work?
Okay, relating Shaban's text, My Life and After 50 Years. I'm still wondering why a title of a book would be like that. My Life and After 50 Years.
Yeah.
My Life and After 50 Years, based on wide spectrum of events in the novel, could be seen as a book of life. And why is it a book of life? In the text, we were meant to understand that life is what you do in life. Life is all about what you do, and not just what you do for yourself, but what you do for others. He said, if in the novel, for instance, if my life is all about going to work, make some money, take care of my family, put food on their table, send my children to school, without going beyond that, he says such a life is not a life to write about. It is a life, but a life that one can write about is a life that is able to impact on other people.
Exactly.
So he sees my life after 40 years, my life and after 50 years is as a book of his life, in relationship with the experiences of the Tanzanian people. I use experiences because they have series of experience: the prehistoric, the coastal age, the stone age, the iron age, the German intervention,
the one we discussed,
the British colonization, which ended in 1963. So my life and after 50 years chronicles this period, looking at different phases of the life of the Tanzanian people in relationship with the current experience and how they can tap from history to develop themselves. So my life and after 50 years is a quite interesting novel. He tried to sieve event. He tried to subject himself, just like I think I should link the experience in the text with the life of Mandela of South Africa. I should also link the experience in the text with the life of Mahatma Gandhi, because I remember as reading the history of Mahatma Gandhi, there are so many similarities with the text of
My Life and 50 Years.
My Life and After 50 Years. My Life and After 50 Years. And after 50 years. So there is so much similarity between the life of Mahatma Gandhi and the text. Why am I saying so? For instance, I remember one of the famous quotation of Mahatma Gandhi is, to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. This idea is what I found in that text throughout my study of that text, because Robert Shaban tries to depict a fictitious or historical picture of how a life should be. That one should not just be living the life of what do I eat, what do I wear, and where do I sleep. That if any life is based on these three things, that such life is not a successful life. That a life should be, one should look at life or live his life beyond what he will just eat, drink, and where to sleep. That is to say, he's talking about losing yourself in the service of others. For instance, in the life of Mahatma Gandhi, we're able to see that some people say he does not even really have a house, a good house, so to say. He does not have a good house where, like some of us do have today. He is, whenever you see Mahatma Gandhi, for instance, he's always putting on wrapper. You see his shoulder out. But he was able to influence a lot of people the way just by the way he lives his life. He lives by example. We see similar thing in the life of Nelson Mandela, among other prominent African leaders. So Robert Shaban is trying to show to the Tanzania what to do and how to go about tapping from their history, tapping from their rich culture, tapping from the mineral resources we have in Africa to develop ourselves. That we cannot do this unless we are able to make sacrifice. And to make that sacrifice, just as Mahatma Gandhi has rightly put it, is to lose ourselves. That is, we should not be
egocentric.
We should not be egocentric. We should not be self-centered.
Egotistic.
We should not just be thinking about ourselves, but thinking about the community. By so doing, we are writing a book. So the summary of my life and after 50 years is like, life is a book, and this book can only be written by actions, and if that action are good enough, then they can be part of the book of one's life. But if those actions are not good enough, then they cannot be part of one's book of life. I think this is the summary of the text.
With the pastoral part of it already. So can we now move on to the second part of the author's, the second author, Hussein.
Okay,
Kinjeketile.
Well,
what is special about that book? And what makes it unique from other form of text that we have explored so far in this show?
I think the striking thing about Kinjeketile is Ibrahim Hussein was able to take the Tanzania or Africa back into their history. Not just for reflecting history's sake, but to pick some didactic or moral function in the history of the people of Tanzania. How? Yes. There's this moment, if you remember in our last episode, we talked about the German imperialism in the coast of East Africa, where they came because the cotton they were buying from America became very expensive. So they came with the 2 Bs.
The 3 Bs. The 2 Bs.
They just came with the 2 Bs.
It was the British that used
the British that added the 3rd B. The German just came with business and the bullets. So they came and they coerced the Tanzanian into farming cotton. They turned the arable land in Tanzania into the plantation. So the Tanzania, they were working and they were not seeing result. So it got to a point and the people need to fight back. But before this, the people were so disunited. So there's this medicine man called Kinjeketile. He was at the beginning of the play. We saw him at the top of a mountain where he evoked some certain spirit, some certain
A
spirit.
spiritualist.
Yeah, he's a spiritualist. He's a spiritualist.
A spiritualist.
Yeah, he's a spiritualist.
Okay.
He evokes some certain spirit, and the spirit introduce a certain water which is called magi. Magi. It's a magi water. So that water, according to Kejiketele, that whosoever takes that water, Bule will not enter him, knife will not enter him.
Yeah.
He will be like Said. He will be like Said. Said is, there's a in a Tanzanian mythology, there's a person called Said. The person is so powerful. I think they have an
just like Shango.
yes.
Like
just like Shango, Obatala, or like
others.
in my culture, what we call Obunwayo, Aleku, and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So it is in that line that Ibrahim Hussein was able to weave or to write his play. So in the play, the central thing about the play is that the play was able to bring people together. Maybe the Swahili spoken part of Tanzania and the Bantu, as well as other tribes in the country, were not in good terms. But reminding them of their history, of what has happened in 1904 to 1909, was able to bring the people back, was able to bring the people together, and they were able to fight the colonial colonial masters, who are the Germans here. Though a lot of the people were killed, but one thing was achieved, which is unity. Unity is achieved in the play because the people were able to come together, they were able to speak in one voice. I think that play is telling us a lot about ourselves.
So what can you, from what you have just said now, one thing I've seen in it is like there's a concept of magical realism in that text.
Yes.
Can you discuss about this?
Yes, the concept of magical realism, that is the fusion of reality and fantasy, or the fusion of reality and magical powers. I think this is a great power. This is a great tools Africans have in their hand, which they don't know of it. Because from a wide range of studies, this is what the Western world is actually using to develop itself. The cell phone we are using, the aircraft we are using, and so many. In fact, even the electricity we are using, they will tell you this is this, this is that, but it goes beyond that. So Ibrahim Hussein was able to bring this concept into Tanzanian literature, and he was able to bring the people. Though one may ask, okay, if you are saying this is what the Western world is using to develop itself, why can't the people? Why were so many Tanzanians killed in the process? Yes, accepted. The people were killed, but they were able to come together, and they were able to bring the colonial masters, that is the Germans, to their knees.
Does that mean the water didn't work?
It worked.
So how come they were killed?
Yes, they were killed because maybe there are certain rules from the play. There are certain rules that the
victim did not follow. The
victim could not follow. If they had followed the instruction to the latter, they wouldn't have been killed. Because it works. In fact, we have something similar that happened recently in the north central state of Nasarawa state. There's a certain tribe, I don't want to call their name, because what they did was not in line, is something similar, somewhat similar with what Ibrahim Hussein trying to do. They call it the Ombase. Ombase, that it is our time, or it is time. You know, there's this certain man called Baba Lakyo who was giving them something. It's like a smoke. When they smoke it, when they smoke that thing, the bullets, the knife, and whatever arm cannot penetrate their skin. But instead of using that to unite the various ethnic nationals that are made of the current Nasarawa state, he uses that, instead of using that to unite the people, just like Ibrahim Hussein has used in Kinjiketele to unite people, but Baba Lakio uses his own to create this unity. You know, where his tribe, I don't want to call their name on air, where the tribe were fighting almost every ethnic national in the state, who before this time they were living peacefully. So Baba Lakio Ombase was an opposite, was a complete opposite of Ibrahim Hussein Kinjiketele, because Kinjiketele was actually a medicine man similar to Baba Lakio, but he used his own medicine in a positive light to bring about unity. Even if the people were killed, as long as they were able to achieve that unity, I think they say unity is what? Unity is power. Once the people were able to come together to speak in one voice, even if some died in the process, I think it is still something good.
Exactly.
I see it also in the same context with the Arab Spring poetry. I see this book, Kinjiketele, in the same context with the Arab Spring poetry, because most of the poems that were chanted at the Tahrir Square in Egypt, were chanted in Tanzania, Tunisia, Morocco, Libya, and so on and so forth, were not written that day that the protesters were chanting the poem that they were chanting. Most of these poems were written years back. For instance, the poetry of Kazim El Chabi.
We're going to go into poetry because we've got just 5 minutes to round up the show. And I want us to have a comprehensive discussion about the last part of the show. And one of the greatest Swahili writer, not just is English-based Tanzanian writer, a Swahili Tanzanian writer, who writes in Swahili but has been translated into English. So the English version is what we'll be looking at, which is called Flood. And the writer's name is Euphrates Kasilehabi. All right, Euphrates Kasilehabi is one of the greatest
poets,
Tanzanian poets. He became he's unpopular to the outside world because of the language used by the writer. Just like the Somali poets. The Adrawi. Adrawi is a popular Somali poet, but is known only to his people. All right.
Because of the medium.
Because of the medium of communication. But it's common to most of the writers in this region. If you go to even Tanzania, I mean, you go to Ethiopia, you see some of them, a majority of them in Ethiopia. So this happened to even some of them in Djibouti too. And the case of Euphrates Kasilehabi is not an exception in this part. I want us to just focus on Flood. What is Flood all about in general? What are some of the parts that are captivating that makes his poetic work to be unique in the theme of the content of the word flood? Because flood itself is just a disaster to me. So, but going into the content of what is it talking about?
You see, from the title flood, it's signifying that something bad has happened in the land, or something bad is already happening. And what is that bad thing that is still fighting the Tanzanian people in relationship with most, in fact, the East African country and Africa as a whole? That is colonialism. So in the nutshell, the flood is looking at the evil aspect of colonialism, how it affects the people. It looks back, there's a lot of irony, there's a lot of imageries, metaphor, personification, hyperbole, oxymoron, and so on and so forth that you can find in the poetry.
Let's look at the stanza 2. I want us to look at stanza 2 in detail. It says, I will write on the wings of insects and everything that flies, and on the zebra stripes and the elephant hairs, and on the wall of toilets, offices and classrooms, on the roof of houses, the wall of government, and on carved or on t-shirts, And he didn't stop there. He went further to the next stanza and saying, this is the song I will write.
Yeah.
What is that song?
You see, the poetry is the language of the heart. And what this language of the heart does to the society is that it's able to bring the bad smell as well as the good smell of the society. Is able to stay the smell, is able to bring out the reality of the society for everyone to see, for everyone to smell it. And for those who want to react, they will now react. That is why poets are mostly regarded as legislative of the world, legislatures of the world. And they are indeed the legislatures of the world. Because if you look at the prehistory, history, in fact, right from the word go, poetry and poets have been at the forefront of shaping people's thinking in the society. So I think this is what Euphrates is trying to do in this poem.
So in a song, he now said, this year's flood threatened old houses in the valley.
Yes.
People have begun to leave.
Yes.
Electric cables have been destroyed.
Yeah.
Where there once was light.
Yeah. Now it is dark.
Now it is dark.
The flood this year.
So
you see,
I wanted to explore that side.
The
Lodge.
That's
the song that he said he wanted
the
to
Lodge.
sing.
Floods could be seen as the Lord. Whenever there is a deluge, whenever people are flooding, of course, you should know that it is either the outbreak of war, or the flood itself, or windstorm, where houses are being wrecked down, or there is a attack, like what we have in some part of Africa today. You will just go to bed, and the next morning somebody will just come and throw a bomb in your house. But in this context, or in this poem, it's not that kind of attack we're talking about. It's talking about a much more dangerous attack than this one. Sometimes these people don't have bomb. They don't come with any grenade or a rocket launcher to attack the people at night, as we are seeing some good for nothing people are doing in some part of Africa today. But their danger is much more bigger and tougher or dangerous than using a bomb and rocket launcher on the people at night. So, and what is that thing? That is colonialism. That is colonialism. For instance, he says in the next line, we don't sleep when the fierce wind blows. Every day we examine its truth, the wicked walls of the house, and the branches that must be served from a trunk. The flood this year are a warning. We shall tell our grandchildren the flood that year. Many trees were felled. The flood this year, many of us will perish. This is colonialism. This is image of colonialism. This is personification of colonialism. This is simile of colonialism. Metaphor of colonialism. Is purely anti-colonialistic work, anti-imperialism. And these people, they have their own way. Just like I remember a poem when we were talking about, was it Sudan? There was this poem that the author used similar imageries, where he's as though he's talking about two lovers. I don't know if you can remember the name of the author. I can still remember the line when we're discussing Sudanese literature. The author uses something similar to this, where he was talking about love.
So in a nutshell, this is just talking about the destruction from the part of the West.
Yes, destruction.
With regards to, that flood is what is being referred to.
Yes.
It's just very unfortunate that we have already exhausted our time as far as this part is concerned. We've been able to explore all the parts that we're supposed to explore. One thing I gather from what you have said so far, from the work of Shaban, the father of the Tanzanian literature, from Ibrahim Hussein, from Kisla Habito. Generally, they talk about what has affected them.
Yeah.
What is affecting them,
and it's
what
still
might
affecting
affect them,
and it's
later
still
in their life.
affecting, and it's still affecting.
What is affecting them.
Yes, yes.
So it means that literature generally helps to understand how to solve problem, identify the problem,
and how to solve them,
and prefer solution
to it. Yeah.
To it.
Yeah.
It means that when you're talking about real criticism, you have to go deeply into
You can't
literature.
talk about criticism without talking about literature.
Thank you so much.
That is
viewers.
why people like Alexander Pope.
Yeah. We will be talking about some of this indeed. I know you have a lot of this to discuss. Thank you so much for your exploration. You have been able to give us detailed exploration of Tanzanian literature. By the time we meet again, we'll be looking at another world of literature. But what I've decided to do this time is to keep it elsewhere. By the time we come, I just wanted to have the suspense. Next week when we meet again, we're going to go to one East African literature that most people have got a lot of information about. By the time I give you a little bit clue about this, you'll get to understand. This country is a country where people are seen as the mentor or the model of Africa in terms of their modern development, in terms of their leadership, how they came up from zero after war and some other experiences up to the time they are now with the influence of their leader. You know exactly the one I'm talking about. But I will not mention the name of this country until we meet again next week to discuss about this literature of the world of an East African literature. I know some of you still want to see whether I'm going to mention the name of the country. All right, see you again next time. This is CBA ArtFlakes. Thank you for watching.